Hi there, I'm Kenny McGrath. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the violin, identify the different parts of the violin, including the bow. And then what we're going to do is discuss a little bit of posture. And then aside from posture, we're going to then put the bow to the strings and generate some tones. So the first thing I'd like to kind of go over is the basic kind of student toolkit that you would need. What that would consist of would be some staff paper. Besides staff paper, you're also going to need your own notebook so you can keep track of what we're doing. Prefer two pencils. I mean, they can be regular pencils, not mechanicals like these, but two pencils just in case you break one. You're also going to need a portable music stand, which is in this case. You're going to need some rosin. This is an amber kind of rosin. It kind of comes in different colors. You also have a maple rosin, which is a little bit darker, but the amber will work just as well. You're also going to need a violin mute. What this does is it basically sits on the bridge and not really mutes the violin, but gives it a softer kind of tone. You're going to need a metronome. In this case, mine is, kind of analogous, but also kind of digital. It also generates an A440 tone, which is what you'll need for the violin as well. You're going to need your violin, of course, along with your bow. But the most important thing you're going to need is water, because you need to keep hydrated. It's a new thing you're going to be learning, so it's like, you're exercising. You want to keep hydrated. So that being said, let's pick up the violin. Here's the happy violin. Now this is kind of, it's a cool instrument. You have basically your body, which is, this part here. You have also your fingerboard, which is this black part. You have your neck, which is this part here. You also have your pegboard, which is these parts in here. Besides that, you have your strings. You have your chin rest. And you also have your F-holes, where the sound vibrating from the bridge generates through the instrument, through the box itself, and emanates the tone. So those are the kind of basic parts of the violin. Now besides the violin, you also have the bow. Now most people argue, that the violin itself is the instrument. But I've also gone through a lot of lessons that beg to differ that the actual instrument is the bow itself. Because you're basically inputting any kind of feedback through the bow into the box itself, which is the violin. So you can do a lot of nuances with the bow itself. So that being said, you have the tip of the bow, which is this part. You have the middle of the bow, which is this part, and then you also have the frog. You have your tension adjuster, which, you tighten it up. As you can see, the bow gets tighter. You're tightening up the hairs, and then you also loosen it up, and that'll make the bow more slack. So what you a general type of rule is you want to be able to stick a pencil, which is, again, why a pencil is important. There's another couple other reasons why the pencil is important, but you want to make sure you can put it right over the middle. And that's generally a good starting point for the bow, for the tension on the bow. Now, let's continue on. So we're going to talk a little bit about posture now. So you have your violin, and I'm sure you guys are really ready to, break into it and start playing it, but, you got to go over some things first. and that is how you hold the instrument. You know, it's not a ukulele. You don't want to sit there like that and just strum along. I mean, it's not a cello, so you're not going to be sitting here like this. It's a violin. So what you basically do is we're going to be teaching the tiger, what is it called? The tiger grip on the violin. And what the tiger grip is essentially you use your collarbone, you know, this part of your bone, and you also use your chin, and you basically clamp down on the instrument. And then by doing that, you're able to take your hand away. And this is how you hold the violin. Now, I'm kind of lazily sitting down on the table here. The reality of it is you should be standing up, because again, it's going to be difficult to play when you're sitting like this. So you got to be, you know, standing up. I mean, of course, you can play sitting down as well, but I'm going to teach first standing up how to play, because it's a lot more biomechanically friendly. So what you do is you hold the violin with your tiger grip, and you just basically put your hand up on the instrument itself. What you want to grab here on the violin is on this side of your hand. You want to put it on this part of the fingerboard, and then your thumb you want to put on the other side, so this way you're creating a kind of cradle. Now you don't want to collapse your hand, because by collapsing your hand it's going to be very difficult to move around on the instrument itself. You want to make sure you have what we call the gabiche hand. Gabiche? So, yeah. You want to make sure your hand's open like that, and that's basically how you hold the violin. So now that was said, so let's move on to the bow. And this is, of course, the bow that we tightened up before, so I don't need to tighten it again. There are many different ways to hold the bow. Again, as there are many different ways to hold the violin. Before we get to the actual holding of the bow, what I'm going to have you do, remember that pencil? There it is again. We're going to put the bow down, somewhere close so we can get to it. And you're going to pretend the pencil is your bow. What you're going to do is you're going to take your thumb and your middle finger, and you're going to hold the pencil. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your ring finger and use the little part here of your finger to kind of loop around the pencil itself. Then you're going to use your pinky and put it right at the top of the pencil. And then you're going to loop your pointer finger directly around. So you're holding it essentially like this. Now you hold it like this. There are many different, like I said, there are many different ways to do it. But you're doing this so you can kind of create a suspension, because the bow itself is very heavy. So now that you can get how to hold the pencil, and again, it's really weird to kind of, you know, look at it and to kind of grab it. But you can understand why you're going from a pencil, you know, you're starting out with a pencil and then you go into a bow, and it's going to feel really kind of intuitive. Because right now it just feels like you're holding a pencil really weirdly. So what you do is you take your pencil, you put it down, you take your bow, and you do the same thing that you just did with the pencil. So you're going to take these two fingers and grip between the frog and the grip. You're going to take this finger, loop it around the frog. You're going to take your pinky finger, put it at the top of the bow, and then your pointer finger you're going to wrap around. Now be careful, because when I move my left hand, most people are going to drop the bow. But I'm I'm well practiced, so I'm not going to drop it. So what you do then is you let go. And now this is how you properly hold the bow. And you can see it's a suspension. And that's why you have your pinky here, because it's giving the kind of counterweight that you need to keep it from flopping around or from doing all kinds of crazy things. So, all right, now we're going to move on. So, next step is water, because you need to hydrate. So now we're going to grab the violin. Remember what I told you before? With the tiger grip, you're not going to lean on the table. That's just my own laziness. I played a little bit. You grab it with the tiger grip, and then you grab your bow the same way that I told you. You grab the fingerboard the same way that I told you, with this part of your finger and that part of your finger wrapped around the neck, and you place the bow on the strings. Now you can kind of feel it. What you can do then is you can just play around a bit. I mean, it's the violin, so got your G, your D, got your A, and got your E. Now, most of you are going to have difficulty getting those nice tones because it's the first time you're playing. But, you know, play around with it and you can kind of see. So, yeah, I mean, you even do double stops, which a double stop is 2 strings. But yeah, that's essentially the violin and all that it makes it.